evening. Do you realise it is nearly 5 decades, nearly 50 years, since I first stood on a desolate planet and said, "Hello, I am C3PO Human Cyborg Relations, and this is my counterpart, R2D2. Nearly 5 decades, and I'm still involved. Isn't that a miracle? It all happened by accident. I refused the job interview because it was a part of a role of a droid in a science fiction, low-budget film, and I was a serious actor. Yes. But I was persuaded to meet George Lucas, and that is what brings me here tonight. 5 decades, almost. And tonight actually marks a kind of strange moving forward for me. Because yes, has anybody else in this room been in all 9 Star Wars films? I didn't think so. But I am, and the other things as well, and all the spin-offs. But tonight is a new transition because I have acquired over the years all the pieces of magic and memorabilia, that some of which you see tonight. But it's time to share that with devoted Star Wars fans who actually will not store these items in a cardboard box in a cupboard under the bed, as I have done. Because this was part of my working life, if you will, and they're treasures, but my home is not like I've seen some of the homes I've been to, which have wonderful cabinets full of memorabilia from all sorts of things, but particularly tonight we're talking about Star Wars. And I love the fact that the cover of the little brochure, if I may take that for a second, if I may, is the picture of, thank you, of 3PO's face. Because early on, we started making the costume, and the final piece, of course, was the sculptor Liz Moore making this beautiful face. Liz Moore, who created, for those movie specialists, the baby at the end of 2001: A Space Odyssey that turned very slowly and looked straight at you with those big eyes. Liz Moore, who created this face, sadly died in a road accident before she ever saw me wear the costume on film. And I remember her tonight, and I love the memory. Because her creation has stayed with me for nearly 50 years and will stay with you for many more. Because this is a real piece of history, movie history. What is magical in this brochure, if you will look at it, that you see the view that I saw every working day as 3PO, as that face came towards me, and I was the man in the iron mask. I gazed at you through those little peepholes, and if you look in that brochure, you'll see the inside. You'll see the wires, the gaffer tape, the glue, the bits of foam to protect my nose from the cutting edges, because it was all fiberglass and horrible. It was a nightmare from the inside. I was alone. I was bereft of company, bereft of eye contact, and yet somehow, through the grace of George's script, through the design of the art department, through the skill of Ralph McQuarrie, who came up with the design, through the utter joy of the sculpting, you have this face that speaks to you, and I speak to you through that tiny little hole here, which was my air conditioning system. We put my voice on afterwards, obviously. So tonight is a moving on for me, and I will tell you that in doing a little video for the wondrous Propstore, I'll say that again, they're not paying me, the wondrous Propstore, who so honor all the articles that they have in the collections, whether it's Star Wars or Indiana Jones or whatever. The respect that these guys have for the articles is superb. So tonight I'm saying goodbye, and when I did a little video with that 3PO head, which is going to a new home tomorrow, I did for the first time have a little, am I doing the right thing? Am I really saying goodbye? I'm saying goodbye to an object. I have a beautiful object. I have such strong memories, but the strong memories are from the inside, so we won't go there. But I want somebody else to enjoy it properly, not to put it in a box, in a bag, and bring it out for PR events or whatever. Now it's somebody to really enjoy it, so I hope that's going to happen. But here is an interesting thing that we're at this amazing museum tonight, and if there are any Star Wars fans here who want to take the opportunity to ask a question of somebody who was willing to stand in that awful fiberglass suit and be hot and bothered and be persecuted and humiliated and ignored and bullied over the whole course of the entire saga, just saying, then do feel free to ask a question. So I'm going to wander down here. Does anybody have any questions? Oh, it's all right, I can correct you. Nobody's going to buy it. Sir, you're not going to buy it, are you? No. Okay, stand up so people can see you at the back. What's your question?
I wanted to know what was the most fun movie to make, and then at the end of the day, what was your favorite of all?
What was the most fun movie to make? Well, I got to admit, that's quite an easy one. Surely it wasn't episode 4, the first one. I think the word nightmare comes to mind. I had no idea what I was doing. Neither did anybody else on the movie. We all thought it was rubbish. Only George Lucas cared and all that kind of thing. So believe it or not, the most fun one was the last one, The Rise of Skywalker. Okay, things changed in the mix, in the edits, in the air edits, the rewrites, and the rewrites of the rewrites, and then the rewrites. Have you phoned my agent because you're going to have to pay? You're going to have to pay for this footage. The rewrites of the rewrites of the rewrites, and then there were some rewrites. Oh, and then we're bringing the Emperor back. Oh yes, I forgot about that. And what colour's your lightsaber? I forget. Who cares? You see, that my favourite film, believe it or not, was episode 4. It was awful to work on, awful. It was a nightmare. But for me, it was the clearest storytelling ever. There's a good guy, a bad guy, and a bunch of other people. And there was one girl in it. It was like a boys' movie, wasn't it? It was total, boy, has that changed. You know the word. Woke. Yes. Jeez. Anyway, I'm sure the world of woke, they say we live in the, not Plasticine age, but the plastic age, when a million years from now they'll find all this plastic. There'll also be a woke age where they find all this, I don't know, pink stuff or whatever, and they'll go, that didn't last long, did it? So, please, so my favourite was the last movie, because 3PO had a joyous time of it, and working with J.J. Abrams, tremendously lovely with actors. Nobody has ever said that about George Lucas. Okay, he just doesn't get actors. He wants them on the cutting room floor, particularly. But it's his idea. He started it. I wouldn't be here. You wouldn't be here without George Lucas. So the fact that he finds it difficult to communicate with a human being like myself, even with 3PO, he found it difficult. The fact that he started this is very, very important. So, my favourite film to watch was episode 4. My favourite film to work in was episode 9. Wow. Thank you very much. Another question. Layla, do you have a question? All right. Layla French, who are you?
I oversee the Star Wars and Indiana Jones archives for the Lucas Museum.
Yeah. Ah, yes. What's your question?
I think you should tell people how amazing amazing it is that you can still fit in your original costume.
Not tonight, honey. One of the jobs of an actor is, first of all, get the job. Secondly, learn the lines. Thirdly, not bump into the scenery or the furniture. And in my case, get into the suit. And in my case, if I didn't get into the suit, I was the only one who suffered. It was, it was a tight squeeze at the best of times, because one of the issues, of course, in creating the costume was it's all very well to take a sculpt, a copy of my body, and we ended up with this absolute facsimile in white plaster of my body, just wearing very, very little, which fortunately Liz Moore covered up very quickly with clay. But in making a shape of fiberglass and metal, that is rigid. The human body actually flows and whatever, and can meld. If you squish a bit here, it comes out there, you know what I mean? That, I was squished totally from day one. They forgot that I needed some wiggle room. It was entirely my responsibility. And I remember flying from London to Australia for one of the prequels. In first class, I wasn't paying, with all that delicious food and drink, and I think I had a glass of champagne. Do you know how difficult that was? And I barely ate. Good question. And one of the reliefs of not being in the movies anymore is I can eat myself sick. Yes. So, what's your question? Come in. Excuse me, I just wish we had on this camera. Can anybody see? Can we get a close-up here? Now this is what I look at this. I am pretty much featured all over this. I love that. What's your question?
This is the first time I got the chance to talk to you. I've been a massive fan since I was 13. But 3PO has such a distinctive walk and such a way of moving. How long did it take you to come up with that?
Right, that actually is a more interesting question than you think, if I may say. Because on day one, all right, we spent 6 months making the costume, and eventually it was nearly ready, but it wasn't. So I tried it on for 15 minutes at Elstree Studio in the special effects workshop, and I remember as they put in, and done this before, see if I can remember. It started with a rubber thing, corset around here with a zip up here, and then front and back pants, and then a leg, and a foot and a back of a leg, and a foot and a back of a leg, and then a front and a back, and a screw, a screw, a screw, a screw. By now I was locked in, and then a of an arm and a hand. Totally useless hand, black cotton gloves with, I don't know if there's a piece in the auction, metal fingers on, same, and that. And now, could I rehearse with it as promised, with a camera, with mirrors, so I could work out what I could. Is this as far as the arms will go? You know, a lot of human gestures are done like that. 3PO's arms like a crab that can't kind of get, kind of Tantalus, it's there, but you can't get it. So the first day in the desert, there were, I think, 17 pieces laid out on a trestle table. And gradually they built this stuff up around me. And gradually, and then it was ready, kind of. It had taken 2 hours to dress up. I was ready to go home. There were no cabs, we were in the middle of the desert. It was like, no map already. It broke within seconds. But then the first thing, and you can watch this, I'd never done this before, so I'm walking to Luke Skywalker's home kind of fairly normally. As time went on, I realized 2 things. First of all, it's kind of dangerous in a costume like that you have to be very careful where your center of gravity is. And then, as I got into the character, he's very upright and he's very correct. And he's in that costume, it was very heavy. I could have walked towards you like that. Totally different character. Dun, dun. You see, it's threatening. But if you come like a slightly geisha-esque, suddenly you have the beginnings of the character. You take the face, the voice, and whatever, and you have C3PO at your service. So it was a combination of things. And you watch the transition through the movies. I was learning on the job. I had no rehearsal. My first time was action. I got the words wrong. I stopped. Cut. Do it again. Action. By Sam, my first job was cut. Third time I got it wrong, George came up, looked at me kind of with anger, straight into my eyes. Don't worry about the voice. We can fix it later. You can say anything you want. Action. My sir, my first job was cut. Terrific. Another question. Mr. Kazan, would you stand? Howard Kazanjian here, would you stand up? Howard Kazanjian, producer of Revenge of the Jedi. Howard, it's a wonderful surprise. Christy, my wife here, and I flew out for this event, and one of the come-ons was that Howard would join us for dinner tonight. Howard, I'm so thrilled to see you. What is your question to somebody you were very kind to?
Told us it takes 2 hours for you to get dressed. What did you do between takes? Could you sit down?
No. On the first day, it literally took 2 hours, and I was hugely uncomfortable. And at midday, whatever, a whistle went, and suddenly everybody went over there, except for Maxie, my dresser, who stood in front of me, and he said, "Can I bring you something?" And I said, "Well, no, I'd quite like to be with the other people." So he kind of walked me over, and I stood there whilst they sat, and this is serious, and I've actually never said this before. I stood there like a dummy, because that's what I had become, whilst they ate and drank at these tables. And I think somebody brought me a cup with a straw, and with water, and I looked out at the desert just to take my mind off this nightmare, and this was the first day. On the second day, I did say, "Look, I need to take it off in the middle of the day just to sit down, and to maybe go have a pee." I don't know. Good question. You were always very caring. Howard Kazanjian, who did, yes, make Revenge of the Jedi. How much did that reboxing of all the commercial stuff cost?
How much what?
I understand in your archive you have a bunch of Revenge of the Jedi stuff. Is that correct?
Yes, we have a few Revenge of the Jedi one-sheets. This gentleman would love to sign. We don't have them here, but he can sign them and get them to you for a price.
He's not a producer for nothing. Another question. Yes.
Well, I don't know if you're the kind of actor who internalizes things, but when you got the script for the film,
I never quite understood that. It sounds like constipation. What do you mean by internalize that?
actors, where they internalize what the character's feeling, and they live what the character's supposed to be living, and some people like that type of acting, some people don't. A lot of British actors from your generation and older do not. It's not where they come from. But the question is, when you got the script and you wanted to figure out who 3PO was for episode 4, there's an irony there. That 3PO and R2 are immortal, essentially. All the other characters are mortal. They know they're going to grow old and die. But you have 2 characters who know they're going to essentially be around forever. But 3PO, unlike any of the other characters in the film, is totally preoccupied with his own safety and trying to stay alive forever. So did you see the dichotomy in there and try to maximize it?
I do, but even a cockroach is terrified of its mortality. If you've ever tried to catch a cockroach, it wants to live. It does. It's the human condition. I guess machines are the same thing. And one of the things that happened to me over the course of several years, I began to have a kind of sounds rather odd, a relationship in the best possible sense of the word with my microwave oven, because I understood that nobody thanks their anybody thank? No. I once got stuck for various reasons in a stone desert in North Africa, taking the wrong path, and was one of those things where, stupid English tourists found dead in an overheated car in the middle of the desert. However, eventually we found the road to where we wanted to go. And when we got to the hotel, hours and hours later, I began to go into the building and I turned around and I went back and I patted this perfectly ordinary little car and said, thank you. And that's how I began to realize, I don't know, that it made me feel better to say thank you to somebody. With 3PO, I didn't want to go for the job, as I mentioned earlier, but when I did and saw Ralph McQuarrie's concept painting, I fell in love. It contacted me. When I read George's script, it spoke to me. I have no idea why, except that 3PO was a fully formed personality who wasn't just a hero or a bad guy. He was complex because he cared hugely for his human companions and his metal companions, but he cared for himself. He was self-protective, but he was also brave. He would say, leave me, I'm done for, you go without me. He was self-sacrificing, if you will. So he's much more complicated than people sometimes give him credit. And here's the thing. In recent years, very recent years, I have learned how much 3PO has meant to people, and there are many, who are slightly towards the spectrum of various areas, that they are slightly confused by things, slightly oversensitive to other things. They, in 3PO, had told me that they found a hero on screen, somebody they could connect with, somebody who shared their tensions. And I'm immensely proud of that. It's not something I expected. It was a gift, and I'm very proud. Another question. Yes, sir.
So you talked a little bit about doing the voice later. And I'd love to hear a little bit about the voice recording you did afterwards. Was there ever concern that you might be replaced with another voice the way David Prowse was? And second, did George direct you during those voice sessions? And was he different on set in terms of how he directed it?
Are you a filmmaker? Should be. It sounds good. Could somebody get me a little bottle of water or whatever? Catering crew. Can somebody get me a drink, please? The question. Yes, not in first class now, I tell you. The voice thing. We're talking nearly 40-something years ago. So I had a microphone here and a wire that went all the way down to here with the transmitter. And there was space within the butt area, we'll call it. So you have to imagine I'm talking to you through the entire movie out of my butt, okay? Therefore the sound quality was not good, and literally, it was kind of like this. So you couldn't use it. So what they begged me to do, finally, was to, at the end of the day, to re-record lines onto a Ewer tape reel, clean. So I am C3PO, and because it was driving the editors crazy, something like that. And then we finished the whole film. I'm going to look something. This is something I couldn't do in the suit. What? we'll leave the other bit for later, okay? And we finished the film, and frankly, it was not a pleasant experience. And I almost had forgotten about the whole issue, because when something unpleasant happens, you slightly want to get rid of it. And then a phone call, would I go to Hollywood? And I've told the story many times, and it's in my book. Did you know I've written a book? It's called Daniels C3PO, The Inside Story. Available on Amazon and Audible. Just saying. And this is a totally true. Wait a second. A totally true story. I walk into the Sound Producers Guild, I think, on Highland. I was jet lagged for the first time in my life. Yellow cabs had gone bust. I managed to get one, but I was terrified of being late and whatever, and I'm confused. And I walk in, and there is an engineer there, and he says, "Oh, hi, you're Anthony. Sure, you know, it's incredible you got here, because, you know, we spent a couple of months trying to find a voice for your character, because, you know, George really hates you perform." Oh, hi, George. I didn't even shake hands. I said, you hated my performance? No. I never thought of 3PO as being a British butler. He could have said, I could have done other voices. He hadn't intended to use my voice, but somehow 3PO is 3PO. He's not me, he's not the suit, he's not the face, he's not the voice, he's 3PO. The fact that he has a form of my voice, a form of my brain, a form of my body, is a fact. And this is why I do all the follow-up things, because 3PO is 3PO. So in answer to your question, I then spent 3 days putting 3PO back on file. And I always think part of his character is down to jet lag. See what I mean? Now, given that I was up in the gym at 3:30 this morning, we're doing the same thing, okay? Jet lag takes hold. Young man there, did you have a question for me? What was your question? What's your name? Hang on, gotta wait till the speaking stick is with me. What's your name?
Hudson.
What?
Hudson.
Hudson, what's your question?
Did you really want C3PO as a character? Did you really want to C3PO as a character in Star Wars?
Did I want to play him? Is that your question? Not to begin with, but when I learned more about him, I grew to like him very much, and liked him so much, yet I wanted to be him. And he has been a good friend to me all these years. 50, how old are you?
9.
9. Wow, you can do the maths. How many 9s? You can do the maths, right. I've known him and liked him for a long time, yeah. So, another question. Anybody here? Yes, sir, what's your question?
Over the years, C3PO has been on everything from underpants to lunchboxes. What is your favourite piece of C3PO merchandise? And what is your least favourite piece of C3PO merchandise?
You got it. Yeah, I am famous. This was a trick question. I was amazed at the merch. Many of you know that when Star Wars came out, it was thought to be such a nothing thing. There was no merchandise. Boy, did they rush produce things, and gradually more and more stuff. And a lovely thing happened. I was FAO Schwartz in the big toy store in New York, and I went in at this bank of action, the little action figures, and you know there was hundreds of Leia and Luke and whatever, and there were no 3POs, and I felt, because you know the company basically pretended I wasn't in the movie, that's another story, but this I thought was part of the whole thing, to keep the character and me a secret. And I said, you know, excuse me, why are there no 3PO figures? Oh, sir, they sell out right away. I felt really good about that because again, 3PO, he is the first voice, he's the introducer of everything, he's the first. Okay, who knows the first line?
Did you hear that?
What?
Did you hear that?
You just stand up.
Did you hear that?
Can do it in English accent. You're sorry you're in.
Yeah, I'm sorry now. Yeah, did you hear that? They shut down the main reactor.
Did you hear that? They've shut down the main reactor. Will be destroyed for sure. This is-
Okay. For your bonus, is there a script in this? Is there a script in this auction? Yes. What is the next line? Did you hear that? They shut down the main reactor. We'll be destroyed for sure. This is madness. Next line.
After this is madness.
There'll be no escape for the princess this time.
Wrong. I believe in the script, if I'm not mistaken. It's draft 4. This is madness. There'll be no escape for the captain this time. Originally, it was Captain Antilles. A question from all you people at the back here. Anybody? No, okay. Another question. I'm going to go in a minute. Any other questions? Right. Yes. What's yours?
Who is your favorite character personally, and who's C3PO's favorite character outside of R2?
Who's my favorite character? My favorite character. Ooh, it's a number of questions there. My favorite character, because the 3PO is the sweetest, most benign character. I mean, or it just tends and gets across, whatever. So who do you think my favorite character is? No. Darth Maul. I love that character. He has no bones, vicious, nasty. He's everything 3PO isn't. And he doesn't go all wimpy to go, oh, I'm sorry, I was bad. Forgive me. Yeah. No, it doesn't work for me. What was your other question? The Ewoks, please.
Who is C3PO's favorite character?
3PO's favorite character, I think would be Luke Skywalker. 3PO and the princess, he gets their utter straightness and their good manners, and all franken, not so much Han Solo. No. Yes, what can you shout?
Yeah, how hard was it to have a career outside of C3PO?
How hard was it to have a career outside C3PO? I don't know. Never had one. It's quite a complex question, but I've done stage and all that kind of thing. Stage is hard work, 8 times a week, every night, Jesus. I've been very lucky, and it was a dual-edged thing. The 3PO, as a character, and as technology and so on, and the media have grown and progressed, that he has given me a very worthwhile experience, whether it's in film or audio or video or animation or on stage, musical productions or whatever. He's given me a wealth of income, of work, based on a character that I have grown to love very much and grown to enjoy the love of other people. So it's not sycophancy or kind of narcissism. I just like, I don't want to live with him, he's a perfect nightmare. But I've been very lucky that he has given me a career not what I intended to be, and yes, I miss theatre, and tonight's almost like coming out on stage, as you can tell. I'm okay with it, I think. I don't know what you think. Anyway, so, you know, tough times filming, we all know that. It's not the easiest job, but better than digging roads and all that kind of thing. So one last question. Yes, young lady here.
So I know that outside of the main Star Wars franchise, you appeared many times. Sesame Street, Muppets. Which one was your favorite?
I loved, well, the Muppet Show I had adored as a viewer on television for years. It was just magical. And happenstance was that opposite Elstree Studios, the film studios, was the ATV TV studios where the Muppets was filmed. And yes, one day we made the transition across the main road into this weird little place. And yes, there was Kermit on sticks with Henson's hand up here. Here was Miss Piggy with Frank Oz's hand up here. And there I was working with the pig, with the frog, and suddenly feeling at home, because, you know, in Star Wars, I really felt kind of the odd man out a bit, but suddenly here I was with a show that was entirely weirdness. And of course, anybody, and you can see it online, I tap danced in that original costume. I look at it online, I am amazed I could do that, absolutely amazed. That costume made a ton, and they were bouncing around. And when you watch it, one of the cute things is, of course, I had plastic feet on, I had deck shoes actually, so my dancing made no noise at all. And when I went back to put my voice on, just like in the movie list repager, there was a man at the same time with a tin tray and a spoon doing all the taps, so watch that. And then, of course, the great joy, they asked me to go over to Sesame Street in New York. I would have stayed there for the rest of my life. I was there for a week. 3PO was at home. And one of my favorite moments, and probably it's online, you can watch a scene where R2-D2 comes up. Beep, 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 beep. What do you mean? What do you want me to say? Oh, you have a beep, beep, beep. You have a new girlfriend? Beep, 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 beep. Come on, Sandy. Beep, 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 beep. R2, that is a fire hydrant. It was that kind of cuteness that I love. And one of the things that Star Wars is so loved that you can take the mickey out of it. You can make fun of it, you can josh with it and whatever. And that's truly love that's come from all the audiences around the world over the years. And I guess you're very much a part of it. And now here I am, saying goodbye to bits of it, but my memories are very strong. And the friendships and the relations I've made, the fans I've met, are just a joy. And you in the room, thank you. Thank you for all the 50 years, some of you. Thank you.